cabby!
The Classic Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, featuring John Patrick Lowry as Holmes and Lawrence Albert as Dr. Watson. Tonight, The Veiled Lodger.
When one considers that Sherlock Holmes was in active practice for 23 years, and that during 17 of those years I was allowed to cooperate with him and keep notes of his adventures, it would be clear that I have a mass of material at my command. Often, these cases involved the most terrible human tragedies, and it is one of these which I now desire to relate.
Yes, Watson, I should certainly do so if I were you.
Do what?
Help with the Edinburgh University Bazaar, naturally.
Huh? I may be very obtuse, Holmes, but...
By no means, old chap. But you'll not, I'm sure, be offended if I say that any reputation for sharpness which I may possess has been entirely gained by the admirable foil which you've made for me. Have I not heard of debutantes who insist upon plainness in their chaperone?
As I was about to say, I may be very obtuse, but I'm unable to see how you know about the university's request, given that the letter had only just arrived and I haven't spoken to you since.
In spite of that, I would even venture to suggest that the object of the bazaar is to enlarge the university cricket field.
What? But now...
Really, I find the range of correspondence delivered to number 221B a constant source of delight. I myself have received a rather curious appeal for assistance from Mrs. Merrilow of South Brixton. She says she will call at... be a good fellow and answer it, would you? I fear Mrs. Hudson's rheumatism has been playing her up of late.
Mrs. Rhonda has been my lodger for 7 years, gentlemen.
Rhonda?
And during that time you say you've only once seen her face.
And I wish to God I hadn't.
It was terribly mutilated?
Well, Mr. Holmes, you'd hardly say it was a face at all, that's how it looked. Our milkman once got a glimpse of her peeping out that upper window, and he dropped the milk all over the front garden. That's the kind of face it is.
Do you know anything of her history?
Nothing at all.
Did she give references when she came?
No, sir, but she gave hard cash and plenty of it. A quarter's rent, right down on the table in advance, and no arguing about terms. In these times, a poor woman like me can't afford to turn down an offer like that.
Well, did she give any reason for choosing your house?
Mine stands well back from the road. It's more private than most. I only take the one lodger and I have no family of my own. It's privacy she's after and she's ready to pay for it.
Well, it all sounds very remarkable. I don't wonder you wanted to examine Mrs. Merrilow.
I don't, Doctor. I'm quite satisfied as long as I get my rent. You couldn't have a quieter lodger or one what gives us trouble.
Then what has brought matters to a head?
It's her health, Mr. Holmes. She seems to be wasting away. And there's something terrible on her mind.
These cries of murder in her sleep?
Yes, sir. And once, "You cruel beast, you monster!" It fair rang through the house and set the shivers through me. The next morning I spoke to her. "Mrs. Rhonda, if you have anything that's troubling your soul, there's the clergy and the police. Between them you shall get some help."
For God's sake, not the police. And the clergy can't change what's past. And yet, it would ease my mind if someone knew the truth before I died.
Well, if you won't have the regulars, there's this detective man you're always reading about. If he's real, I mean.
Sherlock Holmes? Yes, of course. I wonder I never thought of it before. Bring him here, Mrs. Merrilow, bring him. And if he won't come, tell him I am the wife of Rhonda's Wild Beast Show. Say that, and give him the name Abbas Parva. That will bring him if he's the man I think he is.
And it will. Watson, your presence may be useful.
Of course, Holmes. Anything I can do.
You will understand, Mrs. Merrilow, that if I see Mrs. Rhonda, I should prefer to have a witness. Please make that clear to her before you arrive.
Lord bless you, Mr. Holmes. She's that anxious to see you, you might bring the old parish at your heels.
Then we shall come early in the afternoon. I should like to have a little chat with Dr. Watson. That will carry us till lunchtime. About 3 o'clock you may expect to see us at your house in Brixton. Watson, please show Mrs. Merrilow out.
Please follow me, Mrs. Merrilow.
Oh, thank you,
Abbas Parva. So it's happened at last.
Abbas Parva, somewhere in Berkshire, isn't it?
You have no recollection of the case?
None, Holmes.
I was certain you were with me back then. It was 7 years ago, I believe. The case worried me at the time, though, and here are my notes to prove it. Perhaps you would care to read them.
I'd sooner hear your own recollection of the case.
No, my own impression is very superficial. There was nothing to go on, and none of the parties had engaged my services. And yet, I was convinced that the coroner was wrong. And Edmonds of the Berkshire Constabulary agreed with me. Smart lad, that. He was later sent to Allahabad, you know.
Holmes, from the beginning, please.
My apologies, Watson. Very well. Rhonda, of course, was a household word then. The rival of Woombell and Sanger. See, here's a photograph.
Huge porcine person. Ah, and do I take it that this, very magnificent woman is his wife?
Correct. Rhonda was one of the greatest showmen of his day. There is evidence, however, that he took to drink, and that both he and his show were on the downgrade at the time of the great tragedy.
Tragedy?
He was right here, Mr. Holmes. The caravan had altered for the night. I know it's too long ago for there to still be any clues, but I thought you'd want to see.
Thank you, Edmonds. Please continue.
Well, they were on their way to Wimbledon, travelling by road, and they were simply camping and not exhibiting. Albus Parver's so small it wouldn't have paid them to open. They had among their exhibits a very fine North African lion named Sahara King. It was the habit, both of Rhonda and his wife, to give exhibitions inside its cage.
Dangerous habit.
Indeed. It was deposed at the inquest that there'd been some signs that lion was dangerous. But as usual, familiarity beget contempt, and no notice was taken of the fact. You see, it was usual for either Rhonda or his wife to feed the lion at night.
No one else?
No one, Mr. Holmes. Sometimes one went, sometimes both. But they never allowed anyone else to do it. They believed so long as they were the food carriers, the beast would regard them as benefactors, and would never molest them.
And on the night in question?
They both went. The cage would have been about here. Near midnight, the old camp was roused by a woman's scream, mingled with the sound of a man shouting in terror. The different grooms and employees rushed from their tents, carrying lanterns, and discovered Rhonda with the back of his head crushed in, and deep claw marks across his scalp.
Where did he lie? Be as precise as you can, Edmonds.
Some 10 yards from the cage. About here, if memory serves.
And the cage door was open?
It was. Close to the door lay Mrs. Rhonda upon her back, with a lion squatting and snarling above her. It had torn her face in such a fashion it was never thought that she'd live. Leonardo, the strong man, and Griggs, the clown, drove the creature back into the cage. How it got loose in the first place is a mystery. It was conjectured that the pair intended to enter the cage, but that when the door was opened, it bounded out upon them.
And there was no other point of interest in the evidence?
None, Mr. Holmes, save that the woman, in a delirium of agony, kept screaming, "Coward! Coward!" as she was carried back to the van in which they lived. It was 6 months before she was fit to give evidence. But the inquest was duly held, with the obvious verdict of death from misadventure.
Obvious. Quite.
You'll appreciate it was very difficult for anyone to reconstruct the affair. You have other ideas, I take it, sir?
I take it that the jury failed to look at the situation from the lion's point of view.
The lion's point of view, sir?
Naturally, Edmonds. He is liberated. What does he do? He takes a half-dozen bounds forward, which brings him to Rhonda.
Rhonda turns to fly, but the creature strikes him down. The claw marks were on the back of the head.
Then, instead of bounding on and escaping, he returns to the woman who was close to the cage, and he knocks her over and chews her face up. Those cries of hers would seem to imply that her husband had in some way failed her. What could the poor devil have done to help her with his head crushed in? You see the difficulty.
You think there was another man there?
I do. The camp was awoken by the sounds of a man shouting in terror, was it not?
Rhonda, presumably.
But you said that those cries were mingled with the woman's screams. Well, if Rhonda's skull was smashed in, you would hardly expect to hear from him again, would you?
I always thought there was something funny there, but I could never put my finger on it. But if you'll forgive me for saying so, Mr. Holmes, I should think the old camp was crying out by then. As to the other points, I could suggest a solution.
I should be glad to consider it.
Mr. and Mrs. Rhonda were together, 10 yards from the cage when the lion got loose. The man turned and was struck down. The woman conceived the idea of getting into the cage and shutting the door behind her. But just as she reached it, the beast bounded after her and knocked her over. She was angry with her husband for having encouraged the beast's rage by turning. Hence her cries of coward.
Excellent, Edmonds. There is only one flaw in your diamond.
And what's that flaw, Mr. Holmes?
If they were both 10 paces from the cage, How did the beast get loose?
Well, is it possible that Rhonda had some enemy who loosed it?
It was certainly possible, Watson. He was a huge bully of a man who cursed and slashed at everyone in his way.
I expect those cries about a monster were nocturnal reminiscences of the dear departed.
But my investigations turned up no such enemy who had been in or near Arbus Parva that night. And in any case, why should the lion attack its owners when it was in the habit of playing with them and doing tricks with them inside the cage?
Possibly the same enemy had done something to enrage it.
Possibly. However, our speculations are futile until we have all the facts. There is a cold partridge on the sideboard, Watson, and a bottle of Montrachet. Let us renew our energies before we pay a visit to Mrs. Rhonda.
Upon arriving at Mrs. Merrilow's home in South Brixton, we were led up the straight, badly carpeted staircase and shown into the room of the mysterious lodger. It was a close, musty, ill-ventilated place, as might be expected, since its inmates seldom left it. From keeping beasts in a cage, the woman seemed, by some retribution of fate, to have become herself caged. She sat in a broken armchair in the shadowy corner of the room. A thick, dark veil covered her face, but it was cut off close at her upper lip and disclosed a perfectly shaped mouth and a delicately rounded chin. I could well conceive that she had indeed been a very remarkable woman.
My name is not unfamiliar to you, Mr. Holmes. I thought that it would bring you.
That is so, madam, though I am not clear on how you knew I was interested in your case.
I learned it when I recovered my health and was examined by Mr. Edmonds, the county detective. I fear I lied to him. Perhaps it would have been wiser had I told the truth.
It is usually wiser to tell the truth.
Why did you lie to him?
Because the fate of someone else depended upon it. I know that he was a very worthless being, and yet I would not have his destruction upon my conscience. We had been so close.
But has this impediment been removed?
Yes, Doctor. The person I allude to is dead.
Then why should you not now tell the police all you know?
Because there is another person to be considered.
Yourself.
I could not stand the scandal and publicity which would have come from a police examination. I have not long to live, but I wish to die undisturbed, and yet I wanted to find men of judgment to whom I could tell my story so that when I'm gone all might be understood.
You compliment me, madam. At the same time, I am a responsible person. I cannot promise that when you have spoken I may not think it my duty to refer the case to the police.
I think not, Mr. Holmes. I know your character and methods too well, for I've followed your work for some years. Reading is the only pleasure which fate has left me, and I miss nothing which passes in the world. You see my little library.
Look at this, Holmes. Beaton's Christmas Annual for 1887. I haven't seen one of these in years. £25 for the sole copyright. What was I thinking?
Watson, the matter at hand.
Yes.
I will take my chance of the use which you may make of my tragedy. It will ease my mind to tell it.
We would be glad to hear it.
Mr. Holmes, would you be so good as to pass these photographs to Dr. Watson?
Thank you. Well, this fellow is clearly the circus strongman. Leonardo, I believe you said his name was, Holmes. And I've seen a photograph of this other gentleman before. It's your late husband, Mrs. Rhonda.
I should very much like to hear your description of him based upon the photograph, Doctor.
Well, Mr. Holmes is the man for logical deduction. Only this morning...
I'm well aware of Mr. Holmes's amazing powers, but I am also aware of your remarkable gift for perception. As a writer, I wish to hear your frank assessment of my husband's character.
Very well. I should say that your husband was a human pig, or rather a human wild boar, formidable in his bestiality. One can imagine that vile mouth champing in its rage, and those small, vicious eyes darting pure malignancy as they looked forth upon the world. Yes, ruffian, bully, beast. It's all written on that heavy, jowled face.
Excellent. I have never had guests before, but how fortunate I am to have both a great mind in Mr. Holmes and a great heart in Dr. Watson here in my own little room.
You flatter us, madam. Now, perhaps you would enlighten us to the point of this exercise?
These two pictures will help you to understand the story, gentlemen. I was a poor circus girl brought up on the sawdust and doing springs through the hoop before I was 10. When I became a woman, this man, Rhonda, loved me, if such lust as his can be called love, and in an evil moment I became his wife. From that day I was in hell, and he the devil who tormented me. There was no one in the show who did not know of his treatment. He deserted me for others. He lashed me with his riding whip when I complained. They all pitied me, and they all loathed him, but what could they do? They feared him, one and all, for he was terrible at all times, and murderous when he was drunk. Again and again he was charged with assault and for cruelty to the beasts, but he had plenty of money, and the fines were nothing to him. The best men all left us, and the show began to go downhill. It was only Leonardo and I.
Leonardo.
He pitied me and helped me, till at last our intimacy turned to a deep, passionate love, such love as I had dreamed of but never hoped to feel. My husband suspected it, but he was a coward as well as a bully, and Leonardo was the one man he was afraid of. He took revenge in his own way by torturing me more than ever. Very soon my lover and I understood that it could not be avoided.
That what could not be avoided, Mrs. Rhonda?
My husband was not fit to live. We planned that he should die. Leonardo came up with the plan. I don't say that to blame him, for I was ready to go with him every inch of the way, but I should never have had the wit to think of such a thing. He made a club, and in the leaden head he fastened 5 long steel nails, the points outward, with just such a spread as the lion's paw. This was to give my husband his death blow, and yet to leave the evidence that it was the lion who had done the deed.
Ingenious.
Oh, he had a clever, scheming brain. I know now what a poor spirit was hidden in that splendid body. But compared to my husband, he seemed like my angel Gabriel. It was a pitch-dark night when my husband and I went down to feed the beast, as was our custom. We carried with us the raw meat in a zinc pail. Leonardo was waiting at the corner of the big van, which we should have to pass before we reached the cage. He was too slow, and we walked past him before he could strike, but as he followed us on tiptoe, and I heard the crash as the club smashed my husband's skull, my heart leaped with joy at the sound. I sprang forward, and I undid the catch which held the door of the lion's cage, and then the terrible thing happened. You may have heard how quick these creatures are to scent human blood and how it excites them. Some strange instinct had told Sahara King that a human being had been slain, and as I slipped through the bars, it bounded out and was on me in an instant. If Leonardo had rushed forward and struck the beast with his club, he might have saved me. Instead, I heard him shout in terror, and then I saw him turn and fly. At the same instant, the teeth of the lion met in my face. Its hot, filthy breath had already poisoned me, and I was hardly conscious of pain. With the palms of my hands, I tried to push the steaming, blood-stained jaws away from me, and I screamed for help. I was conscious that the camp was stirring, and then dimly I remembered a group of men dragging me from under the creature's paws. That was my last memory, gentlemen, for many a weary month. For I came to myself and saw myself in the mirror. I cursed the lion. Oh, how I cursed him, not because he had torn away my beauty, but because he had not torn away my life.
And what of Leonardo?
I never saw him or heard from him again. Perhaps I've been wrong to feel so bitterly against him. He might as soon have loved one of the freaks whom we carried round the country as the thing which the lion had left. But a woman's love is not so easily set aside. He left me under the beast's claws. He deserted me in my moment of need, and yet I could not bring myself to give him to the gallows.
To bring both of you to the gallows?
I cared nothing of my fate. What could be more dreadful than my actual life? But I stood between Leonardo and his fate.
Until he drowned while bathing near Margate last month.
You knew?
There had to be a catalyst for this interview. I saw a report of his death in the newspaper and stored the information away.
Mr. Holmes's memory is of the photographical order.
Some of us are cursed with memories like flypaper. Stuck there is a staggering amount of miscellaneous data, mostly useless. Tell me, what became of this 5-clawed club, which is the most singular and ingenious part of your story?
There was a chalk pit by the camp with a deep green pool at the base of it. Perhaps in the depths of that pool.
A pity. I would have liked it for my collection. Such a device is, so far as I know, quite unique in the history of crime. Well, it's of little consequence now. The case is closed.
Yes, the case is closed. I have but one desire these last few years, gentlemen, and enough money to gratify it, that I should cover myself so that my poor face should be seen by none, and that I should dwell where none whom I had ever known should find me. That is all that was left to me to do, and that is what I have done. A poor wounded beast that has crawled into its hole to die. That is the end of Eugenia Ronda.
Your life is not your own. Keep your hands off it.
What use is it to anyone?
How can you tell? The example of patient suffering is in itself the most precious of all lessons to an impatient world.
I wonder if you would bear it.
Good Lord.
Now you know, gentlemen, why I never raise my veil.
Good morning, Watson. You're an uncommonly late riser this morning.
I slept very badly. Nightmares.
Help yourself to some breakfast. The kippers may be a little cold, I'm afraid.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, what are you reading, Holmes?
A very interesting article upon the trees of Cremona and the exact reasons for the preeminence in the manufacture of violins. It's one of those small outlying problems to which I am sometimes tempted to direct my attention. Have you given any more thought to the request for assistance from your old university?
Yes, but mostly how you were able to deduce the content of my letter without even seeing it.
No magic, Watson. The fact is that you're an excellent subject for observation. You are never blasé. You respond instantly to any external stimulus. Your mental processes may be slow, but they are never obscure. And I found during breakfast yesterday that you were easier reading than the leader in the Times in front of me.
Nevertheless, I'd be glad to know how you arrived at your conclusions.
I fear my good nature in giving explanations has seriously compromised my reputation. But in this case, the train of reasoning is based on such obvious facts that no credit can be claimed for it. You entered the room with a thoughtful expression, the expression of a man who is debating some point in his mind. In your hand you held a solitary letter. Now, you retired in the best of spirits, so it was clear that it was this letter which had caused the change in you.
Obviously.
It's all obvious when it's explained, old chap. I naturally asked myself what the letter could contain, which might have this effect upon you. As you walked, you held the flap side of the envelope towards me, and I saw upon it the same shield-shaped device which I have observed upon your old college cricket cap. It was clear, then, that the request came from Edinburgh University, or from some club connected with the university. When you reached the table, you laid down the letter beside your plate, with the address uppermost, and you walked over to look at the framed photograph upon the left of the mantelpiece.
What next?
I began by glancing at the address, and I could tell, even at the distance of 6 feet, that it was an unofficial communication. This I gathered from the use of the word doctor upon the address, to which, as a Bachelor of Medicine, you have no legal claim. University officials are pedantic in their correct use of titles. When, on your return to the table, you turned over your letter and allowed me to perceive that the enclosure was a printed one. The idea of a bazaar first occurred to me.
Yes, but it might have been a political communication.
Improbable in the present stagnant condition of politics. When you returned to the table, your face still retained its expression, and it was evident that your examination of the photograph had not changed the current of your thoughts. In that case, it must itself bear upon the subject in question. I turned my attention to the photograph, therefore, and saw at once that it consisted of yourself as a member of the Edinburgh University 11, with the pavilion and cricket field in the background. My small experience of cricket clubs has taught me that next to churches and cavalry ensigns, they're the most debt-laden things upon earth. When upon your return to the table I saw you take out your pencil and draw lines upon the envelope, I was convinced that you were endeavouring to realise some projected improvement which was to be brought about by a bazaar.
Of course. Well, as it happens, I've been asked to contribute something to their album.
As a respected literary figure, and a celebrity in your own right, I should expect nothing less.
My only problem now is what should I write for them? I thought perhaps an account of the affair of the politician, the lighthouse, and the train cormorant.
You surprise me, Watson.
Oh, it's good to know I possess that ability. Why do I surprise you?
I should have thought you would have set down the details of our recent excursion to South Brixton.
It's clear you know nothing about literature, Holmes. The general public would never accept the story of the Veiled Lodger.
Good title.
Yeah, I thought so. Now, the matter is inconclusive. There's no dramatic resolution.
Funny you should say that, Watson. This arrived in the post this morning.
A bottle.
Sniff the contents.
Almond odor. Prussic acid. Who's it from?
A brief note accompanied the package.
I send you my temptation.
I think, Watson, we can guess the name of the brave woman who sent it.
It seems she was mistaken when she thought you were a great mind without a great heart.
If I possess that quality to any degree, I owe it to you, Doctor. Poor woman. The ways of fate are indeed hard to understand. If there is not some compensation hereafter, then the world is a cruel jest.
You have just heard The Veiled Lodger by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and dramatized by M.J. Eliot. John Patrick Lowry starred as Sherlock Holmes with Lawrence Albert as Dr. Watson. Also in the cast were Susan Connors as Mrs. Merrilow, Dennis Bateman as Edmonds, and featuring Cynthia Lair in the role of Mrs. Rhonda. Incidental music was by Michael Lynch, and our violinist is Coral Sepulveda. The director for this episode was Lawrence Albert, with production by Jim French. The Classic Adventures of Sherlock Holmes is a copyrighted feature of Jim French Productions, with all rights reserved. This is Dennis Bateman speaking.
Oh, cabby! Cabby!
The Classic Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, featuring John Patrick Lowry as Holmes and Lawrence Albert as Dr. Watson. Tonight, Shoscombe Old Place.
My name is Dr. John H. Watson, and tonight I'd like to tell you the story of Sir Robert Noberton of Shoscombe Old Place in Berkshire, home of the famous Shoscombe stud and training quarters. Sherlock Holmes and I were visited by Sir Robert's head trainer, John Mason, a man of cold self-possession. So it seemed to me.
I fear Sir Robert has gone mad, Mr. Holmes.
Really, Mr. Mason, this is Baker Street, not Harley Street. Why do you say so?
I sorely need your advice, for it is not a matter I can take either to the police or to the doctors. I believe Shoscombe Prince and the Derby have turned his brain.
Shoscombe Prince is the coat you're running?
The best in England, Doctor. I should know if anyone does. Now, I'll be plain with you, for I know you're gentlemen of honour and it won't go beyond the room. Sir Robert has got to win this Derby. He's up to his neck in debt.
Not for the first time. Didn't he horsewhip Sam Brewer, the Curzon Street moneylender on Newmarket Heath? Nearly killed the man.
You recollect the incident with remarkable clarity, Doctor.
My summer quarters were down there once, Holmes.
Excellent. I seem to have struck a rich vein.
It's different this time, gentlemen. Everything Sir Robert could raise or borrow is on the horse, and at fine odds, too. You can get 40s now, but it was near the 100 when he began to back him.
40 to 1? But how can that be if the horse is so good?
The public don't know how good he is. We have the Prince's half-brother out for spins, you see. You can't tell them apart. But there are 2 lengths and a furlong between them when it comes to a gallop.
I see. Mr. Mason, if I were to, put a small wager on Shoscombe
Watson,
Prince...
your wound pension will not stand further punishment. Forgive us, Mr. Mason. The doctor serves as my handy guide to the turf. Continue.
When we have the Prince out, it's where no one can ever see him. My master nearly killed one tout and was had in the police court for it.
Sounds a most interesting fellow. I'm surprised our paths haven't crossed before.
He thinks of nothing but the horse and the race. His whole life is on it. But if the Prince fails him, he's done for.
It seems rather a desperate gamble, but where does the madness come in?
When a man does 1 or 2 queer things, there may be a meaning to it. But when everything he does is queer, well, I don't believe he sleeps at night. He's down at the stables at all hours. Then there's his conduct to Lady Beatrice.
His wife?
Sir Robert never married Holmes. Just as well, I think, considering his prospects. He lives with his widowed sister, Lady Beatrice Falder.
You mean she lives with him?
No, Mr. Holmes. The place belonged to her late husband. Sir Robert has no claim on it at all. It's only a life interest and then reverts to her husband's brother. Meantime, she draws the rents every year.
And Sir Robert spends them.
That's about the size of it. He leads her a most uneasy life, yet she's been a rare good friend to him. With a weak heart and dropsy, one couldn't expect her to get about with him, but he'd spend 2 hours every evening in her room. They have the same tastes, and she loves horses as much as he does. Every day at the same hour, she'd drive down to see Shoscombe Prince and give him his lump of sugar. But that's all over now.
Why?
Well, she seems to have lost all interest in the horses. For a week now, she's driven past the stables with never so much as a good morning. And he never goes near her either.
You think there's been a quarrel?
And a bitter, spiteful quarrel at that. Why else would he give away her pet spaniel that she loved as if it were her child?
When did this happen?
A week ago today. The creature was howling outside the old well house one morning. Sir Robert caught it up and I thought he might kill it. Then he gave it to Sandy Bain, the jockey, and told him to take it to old Barnes at the Green Dragon, 3 miles off at Crendell, for he never wished to see it again.
That certainly does seem strange.
She's taken it to heart, Dr. Watson. She's drinking like a fish. Stevens, the butler, told me. A whole bottle an evening.
Who keeps Lady Beatrice company?
Her maid, Carrie Evans. She's been with her for 5 years.
And is, no doubt, devoted?
She's devoted enough, but I won't say to whom. I can't tell tales out of school, Mr. Holmes.
You've said more than enough, I think. Sir Robert has a certain reputation with the ladies.
Surely not as great as your own, Watson. Mr. Mason, I regret I am ill-equipped to deal with the emotional difficulties of the landed gentry.
Then what about this, sir? What is the master doing down at the old church crypt at night? And who's the man that meets him there?
Go on.
It was Stevens who saw him go. 12 o'clock at night and raining hard. So next night, I was up at the house, and sure enough, master was off again. We went after him, but it was jumpy work, for it would have been a bad job if he'd have seen us. He's a terrible man with his fists if he gets started, and no respecter of persons. So we were shy of getting too near, but we marked him down all right. It was the haunted crypt he was making for.
Haunted?
There's a ruined chapel in the park, so old nobody can fix its date. And under it, there's a crypt, which has a bad name among us. It's a dark, damp, lonely place by day, but there are few in that county that'd have the nerve to go near it at night.
Save for your master and this other man. Might he be one of your stablemen or someone from the house?
It's no one I know, Mr. Holmes. Of that I'm certain.
How can you be certain?
On that second night, me and Stevens confronted the fellow after Sir Robert had gone. I saw him clearly in the moonlight. A mean, rat-faced fellow, I should say. Well, sir, when he spotted us, he looked as if he'd seen the devil coming out of hell. He let out a yell, and away he went. Oh, he could run, I'll give him that.
You get more and more interesting, Mr. Mason. Tell me, how long is it since you observed the change between Sir Robert and his sister?
About a week.
I'm not yet clear on what you want me to do in this matter.
I want you to keep me from becoming as mad as my employer, Mr. Holmes. Look at my position. I have a Derby winner to attend to. Any moment it might be seized for Sir Robert's debts. Then there's Sir Robert himself, quarrelling with the one person who could save him and has saved him in the past. And all these comings and goings at night. It's more than a man's nerves can stand.
There's certainly something, but can't you make it more definite?
Perhaps this will make it more definite, Mr. Holmes.
Good Lord.
What do you make of it, Watson?
It's the upper condyle of a human femur. Did you find this in the crypt?
No, Doctor. In the furnace under Lady Beatrice's room. It's been off for some time, but Sir Robert complained of cold and had it on again. One of my lads found it when he was raking out the cinders. He didn't like the look of it.
Nor do I, Mr. Mason. Nor do I.
These are deep waters, Holmes.
Deep and rather dirty. Which reminds me, is there good fishing in that part of Berkshire?
Fishing, Mr. Holmes?
Sir Robert has the name of being a dangerous man, Holmes. He's about the most daredevil rider in England, second in the Grand National a few years back. He's one of those men who've overshot their true generation. Now, he should have been a buck in the days of the Regency. A boxer, an athlete, gambler.
Capital, Watson. A thumbnail sketch. I seem to know the man.
Holmes, I've been thinking about our case.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now, let's suppose Lady Beatrice finds out about her brother's relationship with her maid, Carrie Evans. She wants to get rid of the woman. Her brother won't permit it. The invalid, with her weak heart and inability to get about, has no means of enforcing her will, so the hated maid is still tied to her. The lady refuses to speak, sulks, takes to drink.
And Sir Robert, in his anger, takes a pet spaniel away from her. This spaniel, in fact.
Hello, boy. Precisely. Well, doesn't it all hang together?
As far as it goes, Watson. But how does all that bear upon the visits by night to the old crypt? Or the charred bones in the furnace?
The visits? Yes.
Good morning, gents.
Landlord, we are two weary Londoners who badly need some good Berkshire air.
Well, you're in the right place for that. There's a deal of it lying about.
Excellent. Do you have a couple of rooms spare?
Certainly, sir. Plan to do some fishing while you're here, do you?
Excellent deduction, landlord. You're a regular Sherlock Holmes.
It's Barnes, sir. Josiah Barnes. Well, the fishing rod sort of gave it away.
Any chance of a pike in the whole lake?
Oh, that wouldn't do, sir. You might find yourself in the lake before you were through.
Oh? How's that, then?
It's Sir Robert, sir. He's terrible jealous of touts. If you two strangers were as near his training quarters as that, he'd be after you as sure as fate. He ain't taking no chances, Sir Robert ain't.
I've heard he has a horse headed for the Derby.
Shoscombe Prince? Yeah, he carries all our money for the race, and all Sir Robert's into the bargain. He's been down to London the last couple of days, but he could be back any time, and he's the sort that strikes first and speaks afterwards. So mind my words, and keep clear of the park.
We certainly shall, Mr. Barnes. By the way, that was a most beautiful spaniel that was whining in the hall.
I should say it was. Jasper's the real Shoscombe strain. There ain't a better in England.
If it's a fair question, what would a prize dog like that cost?
Oh, more'n I could pay, sir. It was Sir Robert himself who gave Jasper to me. That's why I have to keep him on a lead. He'd be off to the hall in a jiffy if he had the chance.
Really? I was wondering, Mr. Barnes, would you have any objections to my taking Jasper for a walk? Good boy, Jasper. We're getting some cards in our hand, Watson. It's not an easy one to play, but we may see our way before long. There are 1 or 2 points on which I would like some reassurance.
You have a theory, then?
Only this, Watson. Something happened a week or so ago which has cut deep into the life of the Shoscombe household. We can only guess at that something from its effects.
Which seems to be of a curiously mixed character.
But that should surely help us. It's only the colourless, uneventful case which is hopeless.
And you hope to test your theory with this spaniel?
Just so. Mr. Barnes informs me that Lady Beatrice takes a drive every day about now.
The lady in the veil is Lady Beatrice, no doubt. The other woman must be her maid, Carrie Evans.
Carriage must slow down while the gates are opened. Now, Watson, before it gathers speed, I want you to stop the coachman.
How?
Any way you like, just see that he stops. I shall be behind this holly bush.
Oh, very well, Holmes.
I say!
Yes, I'm terribly sorry. This is frightfully foolish of me, but, I seem to be lost. Which way is it to the Green Dragon Inn?
Now, Jasper, off you go.
Drive on, damn you! Drive on!
There, Jasper. Good boy.
Holmes, the woman in the veil. It was a man.
Yes, we've added 1 card to our hand, but it needs careful playing all the same.
Good evening, Mr. Mason.
Doctor, I got your note, Mr. Holmes. Sir Robert hasn't returned yet, but I hear he's expected tonight.
I see. Tell me, how far is this crypt from the house?
A good quarter of a mile.
Then I think we can disregard him altogether. Watson and I need to see inside that crypt tonight.
We do?
We do. Will you serve as our guide, Mr. Mason?
I can't afford to do that, Mr. Holmes. The moment he arrives, Sir Robert will want to see me to get the latest news of Shoscombe Prince. In any case, I said no one will go near the crypt at night, but there are some of us who are afraid of it by day, too.
Well, in that case, we must work without you, Mr. Mason. It may mean a long search in any case, and we needn't detain you. I fancy we shall get our solution before morning. You can show us the crypt and then leave us.
Leave us?
Brave heart, Watson.
What exactly is it you hope to find, Holmes?
Not hope, Watson. We must examine the graves.
All of them? Well, some of them look as though they date back to the Saxons.
Very likely. I understand the oldest coffin in England can be found here. Scholars come all the way from France to examine it.
Yes, during the daylight hours, presumably. Now, Holmes, can't this be done tomorrow? Look, I'm not a superstitious man, but skulking around an ancient crypt is enough to raise the hairs on my neck.
Yes, I must confess I feel something of the... Watson, where would you say you feel the greatest sense of unease?
Where? Well, I suppose over there in that corner.
I agree. And a man who likes to test his limits as Sir Robert does would certainly choose that spot.
Choose it for what?
Yes, the coffin of Sir Dennis Folder. Watson, look at this.
It's been forced open.
If it can be forced open once, it can be again. Give me a hand, Watson. There.
Great Scott, Holmes. Is this who I think it is?
How long would you say she'd been dead, Doctor?
Huh? Well, at least a week. What do you suppose...
Who the devil are you? What are you doing in my property?
Sir Robert, I presume.
Answer me! Who are you? What are you doing here?
I also have a question to ask you, Sir Robert. What is the body of your sister, Lady Beatrice, doing in this coffin?
Now then, how came you to know of this? What business is it of yours?
I am Sherlock Holmes. This is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson. Possibly those names are familiar to you.
In any case, Sir Robert, our business is that of every good citizen, to uphold the law. It seems to me you have much to answer for.
I see. Well, appearances are against me, I'll admit, but I could not have acted otherwise.
I fear your explanation must be before the police.
I'll give no explanations until after the Derby.
That will not be necessary. The chain of events is a simple one. You are in the hands of the moneylenders, and your creditors may seize your racing stables at any moment. You have staked everything upon Choscombe Prince winning the Derby. So far, we seem to be on fairly safe ground, do we not?
You've evidently gone pretty deeply into my affairs, Mr. Holmes. Yes, I'm running a dark horse for the Derby, and everything depends on my success. If I win, all is easy. If I lose, well, I dare not think of it.
You are dependent upon your sister, Lady Beatrice, for everything. But it's well known that her interest in the estate is for her life only.
I've always known that if my sister were to die, my creditors would be on my estate like a flock of vultures. Everything would be seized. My stables, my horses, everything.
And your sister did die a week ago.
Of natural causes, her heart.
That will be for a coroner to decide.
Her doctor would certify that for months her symptoms have threatened such an end.
Why did you tell no one?
Because he would be faced with absolute ruin if he did, Watson. But if you could stand your ground until after the Derby, Sir Robert, all might be well. You were then faced with two problems. One, how to dispose of your sister's body. And two, where to find a substitute who would impersonate her. Your sister's maid is your willing tool, so the deception would not be impossible.
The actor's name was Norrit. He is the husband of my sister's confidential maid, who goes by her maiden name of Evans.
Husband? Well, well. Norrit is a mean, rat-faced fellow, yes?
How do you know?
He was seen at the crypt by
one of my agents. The arrangement was a simple one. All Norrit had to do was appear daily in the carriage in the guise of Lady Beatrice, for no one need enter your sister's room save the maid.
And the body was placed in the crypt?
Not at first, Watson. Originally, it was stored in the disused well house. Lady Beatrice was taken to the crypt the next day and placed in the coffin of one Sir Dennis Folder.
It seemed to me that it would be no unworthy resting place if we put her for a time in one of the coffins of her husband's ancestors, lying in what is still consecrated ground. Norrit and I opened such a coffin, removed the contents, and placed her as you have seen her. There was no indignity or irreverence, Mr. Holmes. I do not feel that I have wronged the dead.
And as for Sir Dennis's remains, Norrit burned them at night in the central furnace.
You are quite correct, Mr. Holmes. Though how you forced my hand is more than I can say.
Your conduct seems to me inexcusable, Sir Robert.
It's easy to preach, Doctor. Perhaps you would have felt differently if you'd been in my position. One cannot see all one's hopes and plans shattered at the last moment and make no effort to save them.
This matter must, of course, be referred to the police. It was my duty to bring the facts to light, and there I shall leave it. As to the morality or decency of your conduct, it is not for me to express an opinion. Watson, it's nearly midnight, and I think we may make our way back to our humble abode.
Holmes, guess what happened to Shoscombe Prince?
Glue, Watson.
What?
Under the microscope. Unquestionably, it is glue.
Oh.
Have a look at these scattered objects in the field. Those hairs are threads from a tweed coat. The irregular grey masses are dust. There are epithelial scales on the left. Those brown blobs in the centre are undoubtedly glue.
I'm prepared to take your word for it, but never mind that now. Read this.
A win for Shoscombe Prince, I see. So our client's confidence was not misplaced. Well, it should make an amusing diversion for the readers of the Strand magazine when you write it up.
If I write it up, there are still several points I'm not clear on. How, for instance, did you know Lady Beatrice was dead, and that her body had been moved first to the well house and then to the crypt?
The dog, Watson, the dog. You could do worse than entitle your account of this incident The Adventure of the Black Spaniel.
I'll come up with the titles if you don't mind.
Remember Jasper's reaction when I let him loose as the carriage was approaching. His eager greeting changed to furious rage. He thought it was his mistress he saw, and he found it was a stranger. Dogs don't make mistakes.
And the removal of the body?
Mason told us that Jasper yapped continually at the door of the well house.
He knew his mistress was inside.
Precisely. So Sir Robert gave the spaniel to Mr. Barnes of the Green Dragon Inn. In the meantime, he realised that his sister's body must be kept in some safer place, so he and Norah carried it to the crypt of the church.
Well, that seems to cover everything. Why were you so certain it was Norlet who was destroying the bones in the furnace? Why couldn't it have been Sir Robert himself?
The upper condyle presented to us by Mason was placed in the furnace on a night when his employer was in London. Whoever was burning bones, it was not he.
Oh. It struck me there was one flaw in Sir Robert's narrative, you know. Surely his bets on the race, and therefore his hopes for the future, would hold good, even if his creditors seized the estate.
Ah, you gave me the answer to that yourself, Watson.
I did? How?
The horse would be part of the estate, and the chief creditor is the rascally Sam Brewer, whom you informed me Sir Robert was once compelled to horsewhip on Newmarket Heath. Do you suppose that Brewer would try to save him? As likely as not, he wouldn't have run Shoscombe Prince at all.
Well, you seem to have reasoned it out very nicely, I must say.
Thank you, Watson, but I'm afraid I'm unable to accept the compliment. You see, I had imagined for a time that Sir Robert had done away with his sister, and that the bones in the furnace were hers.
Holmes, what a monstrous notion.
Well, Watson, you do occasionally find a carrion crow among the eagles.
And now it seems he's escaped the clutches of both Sam Brewer and the law. Look, he won £80,000, Holmes. 80,000.
More than enough to pay his creditors in full, and re-establish him in a fair position in life.
And beyond a mild censure from the coroner for the delay in registering the lady's decease, lucky fellow got away not merely unscathed, but £80,000 the richer.
How much did you win on Shoscombe Prince, Watson?
What? This is microscopic analysis. Does anything depend on it?
It is a very fine demonstration. Since I ran down that coiner by the zinc and copper filings in the seam of his cuff, Scotland Yard have begun to realise the importance of the microscope. In the St. Pancras case, you may remember that a cap was found beside the dead policeman. The accused man denies that it is his, but he is a picture frame maker who habitually handles glue.
You do say.
Conan Doyle, with adaptation by M.J. Eliot and starring John Patrick Lowry as Sherlock Holmes and Lawrence Albert as Dr. Watson. Also heard were Sean Griffin as John Mason, Steve Manning as Sir Robert Norberton, and Dennis Bateman in the role of Josiah Barnes. Other parts were played by members of the cast. Produced by Jim French and directed by Lawrence Albert. This episode of The Classic Adventures of Sherlock Holmes is a copyrighted feature of Jim French Productions. For more information on this series and other Jim French features, go to harrynile.com on the web. This is Dennis Bateman speaking. The Classic Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, featuring John Patrick Lowry as Holmes and Lawrence Albert as Dr. Watson. Tonight, The 5 Orange Pips.
My name is Dr. John H. Watson, and I shared the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. When he was a young man, Mr. Elias Openshaw emigrated to America and became a planter in Florida. At the time of the war between the northern and southern states, he fought in Jackson's army and afterwards under Hood, where he rose to the rank of colonel. When Lee laid down his arms, Openshaw returned to his plantation and remained there until 1869, when he came back to Europe and took a small estate in Sussex near Horsham. He was a singular man, quick-tempered, foul-mouthed, and of a most retiring disposition. He would see no society, and did not want any friends, not even his own brother. But he took a liking to his nephew, John, and the young man came to live with him, acting as his representative, both with the servants and tradespeople. By the time he was 16, John Openshaw was quite master of the house. Then, on the morning of the 10th of March, 1883...
Morning, John. Anything interesting in the post?
For once, Uncle. A letter with a foreign stamp.
Foreign? You mean American?
India. Pondicherry postmark.
Ah, open it for me, will you?
You're quite sure, Uncle?
I have no secrets from you, my boy.
Oh.
Well, who's it from?
I think it must be some sort of peculiar joke, Uncle. There's no letter inside. Just 5 dried orange pips.
Orange pips?
And on the upper flap, someone's written the letter K 3 times repeated. Uncle!
My God! My sins have overtaken me.
What is it, Uncle?
Death. It's death. They may do what they like, but I'll checkmate them still. Help me up, boy. Help me up! John, you have much to do. Take this key. I want you to go up to the lumber room in the attic.
The lumber room? But, Uncle, you've always told me never to go in there.
Well, I'm telling you now. You'll find a small brass box like a cash box, about so big. It has the same treble K printed on the lid. Bring it down. Tell Mary I want a fire in my room today.
A fire? Is that all?
No, that's not all. You must send down to Fordham the lawyer. I wish you, John, to witness my will. I leave my estate with all its advantages and disadvantages to my brother Joseph, your father, whence it will no doubt descend to you. If you can enjoy it in peace, well and good. If you find you cannot, take my advice, my boy, and leave it to your deadliest enemy. I'm sorry to give you such a two-edged thing, but I can't say what turn events are going to take.
For Elias Openshaw, events took a tragic turn. On the night of May 2nd, 1883, he burst from his house with a revolver in his hand, screaming out that he was afraid of no man and that he was not to be cooped up like a sheep in a pen. His nephew found him next morning, face down in a green scum pool which lay at the foot of the garden. There was no sign of any violence, and a jury brought in a verdict of suicide. The estate passed to Elias's brother Joseph, and no more was thought of the terrible matter until January 1885.
What on earth does this mean, John?
What does what mean, Father?
This envelope. It arrived this morning from Dundee, and it contained nothing but orange pips. 2, 3, 5 of them.
Let me see.
John?
On the flap of the envelope, it's the 3 Ks, and there's something written above them. Put the papers on the sundial.
What sundial?
The sundial in the garden. There is no other.
And what papers?
The papers that Uncle destroyed. On the day he received such a letter, he ordered a fire lit in his room. What shall we do?
Nothing. We are in a civilized land, and we can't have tomfoolery of this kind.
But, Father...
This is some practical joke. What have I to do with sundials and papers? No, I shall take no notice of such nonsense.
I should certainly speak to the police.
And be laughed at for my pains? I shall do nothing of the sort.
Then let me do so.
No, John, I forbid it. I won't have a fuss made about such nonsense.
You must! I know it sounds ridiculous, but I won't rest easy until I know you're safely away from here. The farther you are from this place, the farther you are from danger.
Well, you'll get your wish, and sooner than you imagined. I've received another letter today, this one from Major Freebody. You remember the Major? He's presently in command of one of the forts upon Portsdown Hill, and he suggests that I pay him a visit in a few days' time. Will that satisfy you?
Yes. Thank you, Father. And I'm sorry for my outburst.
There, my boy. We'll say no more about it.
On the third day after the coming of the letter, Joseph Openshaw went from home to Portsdown Hill. But upon the second day of his absence, his son John received a telegram from Major Freebody, imploring him to come at once. Returning from Fareham in the twilight, it seemed that Joseph had fallen down one of the deep chalk pits which abound in the neighborhood. He passed away without having ever recovered consciousness. There were no signs of violence, no footmarks, no robbery, and no record of strangers having been seen upon the roads.
Now, surely the bell, who on earth would come out on a night like this?
Oh, some friend of yours, Holmes?
Except yourself, I have none, Watson. I do not encourage visitors.
Oh, quiet, perhaps.
So, it's a serious case. Nothing less would bring a man out on such a day and at such an hour, but more likely it's some crony of the landlady's.
But Sherlock Holmes was incorrect in his assumption, and not for the last time that day. The year 1887 furnished Holmes with a long series of cases of greater or lesser interest, of which I retain records. All these I may sketch out at some future date, but none of them present such singular features as the strange train of circumstances which I have now taken up my pen to describe. It was in the latter days of September, and the equinoctial gales had set in with exceptional violence. As the evening drew in, the storm grew higher and louder, and the wind in the chimney cried and sobbed like a child.
Come in.
Ah, Mr. Holmes, I trust I'm not intruding. I fear I owe you an apology. Oh, I seem to have brought some traces of the storm into your snug chamber.
Allow me to take your coat and umbrella, sir. You're quite soaked.
Thank you. Dr. Watson, is it?
That's correct. Mr.
Openshaw. John Openshaw.
Openshaw. Nothing to do with the Openshaw unbreakable bicycle tire.
My father's invention. He had a small factory at Coventry, and his business met with such success that he was able to sell it and retire upon a handsome competence.
You've come up from the southwest, Mr. Openshaw.
Yes, from Horsham.
That clay and chalk mixture upon your toe caps is quite distinctive.
I have come for advice.
That is easily got.
And help.
That is not always so easy.
Major Prendergast told me how you saved him in the Tankerville Club scandal. He said you could solve anything.
He said too much.
He said you've never been beaten.
I have been beaten 4 times. 3 times by men and once by a woman.
A woman?
Yes, Watson. Surely I've mentioned the business of the Musgrave ritual.
No, I don't believe so.
But what are these few failures compared with the number of your successes?
It's true that I have been generally successful.
Then you may be so with me.
Please, draw close to the fire and favour me with some details as to your case.
It is no ordinary one.
None of those which come to me are. I am the last court of appeal.
And yet I question whether in all your experience you have ever listened to a more mysterious and inexplicable chain of events than those which have happened in my own family. Yesterday morning, I received this.
Postmarked London, Eastern Division, and inside...
5 orange pips. Well, the same message as before. 3 Ks and put the papers on the sundial. Forgive me, Mr. Openshaw, but I have to ask, why haven't you disposed of your uncle's house?
Fair question, Doctor. Because I was convinced that our troubles were in some way dependent upon an incident in his life, and that the danger would be as pressing in one house as another.
Your statement is one of the most remarkable I've ever heard, Mr. Openshaw. Tell me, what have you done?
Nothing.
Nothing?
To tell the truth, I felt helpless, like one of those poor rabbits when the snake is writhing towards it. I seem to be in the grasp of some resistless, inexorable evil, which no foresight and no precautions can guard against.
You must act, man, or you are lost. Nothing but energy can save you. This is no time for despair.
I've seen the local police, but the inspector has formed the opinion that the letters are all practical jokes, and that the deaths of my relations were really accidents, and not to be connected with the warnings.
Incredible imbecility.
They have, however, allowed me a policeman who may remain in the house with me.
Has he come with you tonight?
No, Doctor. His orders were to stay in the house.
Mr. Openshaw, you should have acted before this. You have no further evidence, I suppose, other than that which you placed before us, no suggestive detail which might help us.
Possibly. When my father took over the Horsham property, he made a careful examination of the attic, which had always been locked up. We found the brass box there, although its contents had been destroyed. On the inside of the cover was a paper label, with letters, memoranda, receipts, and a register written upon it.
Well, that gives us some idea of the nature of the papers destroyed by your uncle.
Anything else in the attic?
Nothing of much importance, save a great many scattered papers and notebooks bearing upon his life in America. Some of them were of the wartime and showed that he'd done his duty well and had borne the repute of a brave soldier. Others were of a date during the Reconstruction of the Southern States and were mostly concerned with politics. He'd evidently taken a strong opposition to the carpetbag politicians who'd been sent down from the north.
That's little enough.
That was all we found in the attic. But there was one more thing. On the day my uncle destroyed his papers, I observed that some small unburned margins lay amid the ashes. This single sheet escaped destruction. I think it's a page from some private diary. The writing is undoubtedly his.
May I see it? March 1869, 4th. Hudson came. Same old platform. 7th. Set the pips on Macaulay, Paramore, and John Swain of St. Augustine. 9th. Macaulay cleared. 10th. John Swain cleared. 12th. Visited Paramore. All well.
Beyond the mention of the pips, I don't see that it helps us much.
Mr. Openshaw, you must get home instantly.
What shall I do?
There is but one thing to do. You must put this piece of paper into the brass box, and put the box out upon the sundial as directed. You must also put a note in it to say that all the other papers were burned by your uncle, and that this is the only one which remains. Assert that in such words as will carry conviction. Do you understand?
Entirely.
Do not think of revenge or anything of the sort at present. I think that we may gain that by means of the law.
I thank you, Mr. Holmes. You've given me a fresh life and hope. I shall certainly do as you advise.
Do not lose an instant, and above all, take care of yourself in the meantime, for I do not think that there can be a doubt that you are threatened by a very real and imminent danger.
How do you go back?
By train, from Waterloo.
Well, the streets will still be crowded at this time, so I trust you may travel in safety.
And yet, you cannot guard yourself too closely.
I am armed.
Excellent. Call upon us in a day or two with news as to the box and the papers.
Goodbye, gentlemen. I shall take your advice in every particular.
Why aren't we joining him in Horsham?
The secret lies in London, Watson. It is here I shall seek it. I think that of all our cases, we've had none more fantastic than this. Young John Openshaw seems to be walking amid great peril.
And have you formed any definite conception as to what these perils are?
Surely there can be no question as to the nature.
Well, what about this fellow with the initials KK?
Wait. He's managed to hail a cab. He'll be safe now. There is no one antagonist, Watson. A single man couldn't have carried out 2 deaths in such a way as to deceive a coroner's jury. There are several of them, and they must be men of resource and determination.
Yes, but their web is already woven, while we still have ours to weave.
The first consideration is to remove the pressing danger which threatens young Mr. Openshaw. The second is to clear up the mystery and to punish the guilty parties. I must make an early start tomorrow, Doctor, for I have much to do. But I believe we may let some light into this dark place.
Is there anything I can do to assist?
Not at present. The only chance our client has is to do what I've told him. There's nothing more to be said or to be done tonight, so let us try to forget for half an hour the miserable weather, and the still more miserable ways of our fellow men. Morning, Watson. Is there any breakfast left?
Where did you get to, Holmes?
I spent the early part of the day poring over Lloyd's Register of Shipping.
To what end?
I have them in the hollow of my hand, Watson.
Excellent. But who are they? Who is this fellow who signs himself KKK? And why is he persecuting this unhappy family?
Have you never heard of the Ku Klux Klan?
Never.
It's impossible that a man should possess all knowledge which is likely to be useful to him in his work, and this I have endeavoured in my case to do. Put down your newspaper for a moment and read this.
Ku Klux Klan. A name derived from the resemblance to the sound produced by cocking a rifle.
Rather fanciful suggestion. More likely it comes from the Greek word kuklos, meaning circle.
Secret society formed by ex-Confederate soldiers in the southern states after the Civil War. Rapidly formed local branches in different parts of the country, notably in Tennessee, Louisiana, the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida.
Home to the late Elias Openshaw.
Power used for political purposes, principally for the terrorizing of Negro voters and the murdering and driving from the country of those opposed to its views. Outrages usually preceded by a warning sent to the marked man in some fantastic but generally recognized shape. A sprig of oak leaves, melon seeds, or orange pips. In 1869, the movement collapsed, although there have been sporadic outbreaks since that date.
A man should keep his little brain attic stocked with all the furniture he's likely to use, and the rest he can put away in the lumber room of his library, where he can get at it if he wants it. Now, for such a case as the one which has been submitted to us, we need certainly to muster all our resources.
So you memorized the American Encyclopedia?
In my leisure moments. You will observe, Watson, that the sudden breaking up of the society was coincident with the disappearance of Openshaw from America. Men at his time of life do not change all their habits and exchange willingly the charming climate of Florida for the lonely life of an English provincial town. His extreme love of solitude in England suggests that he was in fear of someone or something which drove him from America.
Taking their papers with him. No wonder he and his family have some of the more implacable spirits upon their tracks. Openshaw's diary might have implicated some of the first men in the South.
The page from that diary read, if I recall, sent the pips to Macaulay, Paramore, and John Swain. Macaulay and Swain fled the country, and Paramore was visited with, I fear, sinister results.
But what does all this have to do with Lloyd's Register?
Do you recall the postmarks of those letters received by Elias and his successors?
Yes, I think so. The first was from Pondicherry, the second from... No, let me think. Oh, yes, Dundee, and the third from London.
From East London. What do you deduce from that?
All seaports. The writer was on board a ship.
You're invaluable to me, Watson, with your instinctive grasp for the obvious. Now, let us consider another point. In the case of Pondicherry, 7 weeks elapsed between the threat and its fulfillment. In Dundee, it was only some 3 or 4 days. Does that suggest anything?
A greater distance to travel.
But the letter also had a greater distance to come.
Well, then I don't see your point.
The vessel in which the men are travelling is a sailing ship. They always sent their singular warning or token before them when starting upon their mission. You see how quickly the deed followed the sign when it came from Dundee. If they'd come from Pondicherry in a steamer, they would have arrived almost as soon as their letter. But in fact, 7 weeks elapsed.
The difference between the mail boat which brought the letter and the sailing vessel which brought the writer. Yes, it's possible.
More than that, it is probable. And now you see the deadly urgency of this new case. And why I urge young Openshaw to caution. The blow has always fallen at the end of the time which it would take the senders to travel the distance. But the latest letter comes from London.
Great Scott! They're already here.
Hence this morning's labours. I've been following the career of every vessel which touched at Pondicherry in January and February of 1883. Of the 36 ships which were reported there, one, the Lone Star, instantly attracted my attention.
Lone Star? Oh, one of the states of the Union. Texas, I think.
I searched the Dundee records, and when I found that the bark Lone Star was there in January of 85, my suspicion became a certainty. I then inquired as to the vessels which lay at present in the port of London. The Lone Star arrived here last week. Captain James Calhoun and his 2 mates are the only native-born Americans on board the ship.
Well, now you've identified them. There isn't a moment to be lost.
Calm yourself, Watson. I have already been down to the Albert Dock and learned that the ship has been taken down the river by the early tide this morning, homeward bound to Savannah.
Savannah? Well, then they must have been convinced by Openshaw's explanation.
So it would seem. I have no doubt that she's now past the Goodwin Sands and not very far from the Isle of Wight.
What do you propose to do about it?
I shall send a cable informing the Savannah police that these 3 gentlemen are wanted here upon a charge of murder.
Smart work.
Yes, I must say it's worked out uncommonly well. Did you finish the bacon, old chap?
No, help yourself. Oh, my God.
What is it, Watson?
Holmes, you're too late.
How was it done?
Listen to this. Tragedy near Waterloo Bridge. Between 9 and 10 last night, Police Constable Cook of H Division, on duty near Waterloo Bridge, heard a cry for help and a splash in the water. The night was extremely dark and stormy, so it proved quite impossible to effect an immediate rescue. The body, when eventually recovered, proved to be that of Mr. John Openshaw of Horsham. There are no traces of violence, and there can be no doubt that the deceased had been the victim of an unfortunate accident.
How could they have decoyed him down there? The embankment isn't on a direct line to the station. It hurts my pride, Watson, that he should come to me for help and that I should send him away to his death. This is a personal matter now.
What about the police?
I shall be my own police. The Openshaws shall not long remain unavenged. We shall put their own devilish trademark upon them. When the Lone Star enters port in Savannah, Captain James Calhoun will find an envelope awaiting him. It may give him a sleepless night. He'll find it as sure a precursor of his fate as Openshaw did before him.
5 orange pips.
From Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
There is ever a flaw, however, in the best laid plans, and the murderers of John Openshaw were never to receive the orange pips which would show them that another, as cunning and as resolute as themselves, was upon their track. Very long and very severe were the equinoctial gales that year. We waited long for news of the Lone Star of Savannah, and heard that somewhere, far out in the Atlantic, a shattered sternpost of the boat was seen swinging in the trough of a wave, with the letters L.S. carved upon it. And that is all we shall ever know of the fate of the Lone Star.
Oh, Tabby! Tabby!
Classic Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, featuring John Patrick Lowry as Holmes and Lawrence Albert as Dr. Watson. Tonight, A Study in Scarlet.
My name is Dr. John H. Watson, and I would like to tell you the story of my first meeting with Sherlock Holmes. My military career came to an abrupt end following the outbreak of the Second Afghan War. Wounded and with my health irretrievably ruined, I returned to London, that great cesspool into which all the loungers and idlers of the Empire are irresistibly drained. With neither kith nor kin in England, I was as free as air, or as free as an army pension of 11 shillings and sixpence a day will permit a man to be. But a chance encounter with young Stamford, one of my old colleagues at St. Bartholomew's Hospital, changed all that.
Whatever have you been doing with yourself, Watson? You're as thin as a lath and brown as a nut.
I gave him a short sketch of my adventures.
Poor devil. What are you up to now?
Looking for lodgings. Trying to solve the problem as to whether it's possible to get rooms at a reasonable price.
Well, that's a strange thing. You are the second man today that has used that expression to me.
Oh, who was the first?
A fellow who was working at the chemical laboratory up at the hospital. He was bemoaning himself this morning because he could not get someone to go halves with him on some nice rooms which he had found and which were too much for his purse.
Oh, by Jove. If he really wants someone to share the rooms and the expenses, well, I'm the very man for him. I should prefer having a partner to being alone.
You don't know Sherlock Holmes yet. Perhaps you would not care for him as a constant companion.
Why? What is there against him?
I didn't say there was anything against him. He is a little queer in his ideas. An enthusiast in some branches of science. As far as I know, he's a decent fellow enough.
A medical student, I suppose?
No. I have no idea what he intends to go in for. I believe he is well up in anatomy, and he is a first-class chemist. But as far as I know, he has never taken out any systematic medical classes. His studies are very desultory and eccentric, but he has amassed a lot of out-of-the-way knowledge which would astonish his professors.
Oh, did you never ask him what he was going in for?
No. He's not a man that is easy to draw out, though he can be communicative enough when the fancy seizes him.
I should like to meet him.
Well, he's sure to be at the laboratory. If you like, we could drive round together after luncheon.
Oh, certainly.
Now remember, Watson, you mustn't blame me if you don't get along with him.
If we don't get on, it'll be easy to part company. But you know, Stamford, it seems to me you've some reason for washing your hands of the matter. What is it you're not telling me about this Sherlock Holmes chap?
As I said, I don't know much of anything about him.
Well, then how'd you know he'd be here?
Oh, well, that is one of the few things I am certain about. He's either performing experiments in the hospital laboratory from morning till night, or else avoids the place for weeks. So the odds are better than 50-50 that this is the place to find him.
What sort of experiments?
He says he's trying to find a reagent that's precipitated by hemoglobin and by nothing else.
Well, I am sure that's very useful.
He seems to have a passion for definite and exact knowledge.
Oh, quite right, too.
Yes, but when it comes to beating the corpses in the dissecting rooms with a stick to verify how far bruises are produced after death, it's going a bit far, don't you think?
Good Lord.
So as I say, if you don't get on with him, don't blame me. You're in luck. It seems he's here after all.
Stamford, I found it. I have found it.
Dr. Watson, Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Pleased to make your acquaintance.
How do you do? You've been to Afghanistan, I perceive.
Well, how on earth did you know
Stanford, this is the most important medico-legal discovery for years. If this test had been in existence earlier, von Bischoff would have been hanged for that murder at Frankfurt last year. Then there was Mason of Bradford, and the notorious Muller, and Lefebvre of Montpellier, and Sampson of New Orleans. I could name a score of cases in which it would have been decisive. Why did they escape the noose? Because there was no reliable test for blood corpuscles more than a few hours old. But now we have the Sherlock Holmes test.
We came on business, Holmes. I was Watson's dresser when he was a surgeon here. He tells me he's looking for comfortable rooms at a reasonable price, and as I remembered you saying you could get no one to go halves with you on that suite in Baker Street, so I thought I'd better bring the two of you together.
I see. Doctor, are you bothered by the smell of strong tobacco?
No, I smoke an Arcadia mix myself.
I generally have chemicals about and occasionally do experiments. Would that annoy you?
Oh, by no means. I'd prefer to lodge with someone of studious and quiet habits. In fact, you see, after the war, well, my nerves are a little shaken.
You wouldn't mind if I played the violin?
No, go right ahead.
No, not now. I mean at Baker Street.
Well, whether the music is good or bad depends on the player, I always say.
Well, that's settled then. The rooms will suit you down to the ground, I'm sure. If you're agreeable, we can move in tomorrow.
What's the house number?
221B.
221B Baker Street, huh? Well, let's take a look.
See you, Watson. Didn't I say you two would get on famously?
Box, Watson.
I'm glad to hear it. Well, what's in this one?
Chemical apparatus.
Oh, you need a hand?
Thank you. But please be careful. I use a great many poisons in my work.
I've been meaning to ask you about that, Holmes. What exactly... Is that a syringe?
It's all right. I'll take care of that. You were saying, Watson?
I was about to ask, what exactly is your work?
Fair question. I am a consulting detective.
Consulting detective? I've never heard of such a thing.
It's not likely that you should, given that I'm the only one in the world. You see, I have a turn both for observation and deduction, and I depend upon them for my bread and cheese. People come to see me when they're in trouble. I listen to their story, they listen to my comments, and I pocket my fee.
You mean that without leaving this room, you can unravel some knot which other men can make nothing of?
Now and again, a case turns up where I have to bustle about and see things with my own eyes. Observation with me is second nature. For instance, you were surprised when I told you on our first meeting that you'd come from Afghanistan.
I was.
The train of reasoning ran this way. Here is a medical type, but with the air of a military man. Clearly an army doctor. He's just come from the tropics, for his face is dark, but his wrists are fair. His haggard face shows he's undergone hardship and sickness. His left arm has been injured. He holds it in a stiff and unnatural manner. Where in the tropics could an English army doctor have seen much hardship and got his arm wounded? Clearly in Afghanistan. The whole train of thought didn't occupy a second.
Well, sounds simple enough when you explain it. But as a matter of fact, I was wounded at the Battle of Maiwand. Took a bullet in the shoulder. It shattered the bone and grazed the subclavian artery.
The Battle of Maiwand occurred last July, did it not?
Yes. When I was recuperating in the base hospital at Peshawar, I contracted enteric fever.
The curse of our Indian possessions.
For months, my life was despaired of, and when at last I came round, a medical board decided I should be sent back to England. And then I bumped into Stanford at the Criterion Bar, and, well, here we are.
You've had a rough time of it, Watson.
Perhaps while I recuperate, I'll have the opportunity of studying your methods.
I very much doubt it, I'm afraid. There are no great crimes and no great criminals these days. No man lives or has ever lived who has brought the same amount of study and natural talent to the detection of crime as I have done.
If you do
and
say
what's
so yourself.
The result? There's no crime to detect, or at most some bungling villainy with a motive so transparent even a Scotland Yarder can see through it.
Well, have you ever thought of... I wonder what that fellow's looking for.
What fellow?
Down in the street.
Oh, you mean the retired sergeant of Marines? It appears he's coming here.
Now, how can I possibly verify that?
Well, we'll know soon enough. Perhaps the envelope he's carrying is one of us. Come in.
Message for Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Thank you. Listen to this, Watson. My dear Mr. Holmes, there's been a bad business during the night at 3 Lauriston Gardens off the Brixton Road. Our man on the beat saw a light there about 2 a.m, and as the house was an empty one, suspected something was amiss. He found the door open, and in the front room discovered the body of a well-dressed gentleman. There are marks of blood on the room, but there is no wound upon his person. If you can come round to the house any time before 12, you will find me there. Yours faithfully, Inspector Tobias Gregson. No reply, thank you.
Very good, sir.
Excuse me, my man. May I ask what your trade might be?
Commissionaire, sir. Uniform wife repairs.
Commissionaire, Holmes, not Marine Sergeant.
It's funny you should say that, sir. I was a sergeant. Royal Marine Light Infantry.
I see. Here you are, Sergeant.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. Good day to you.
How in the world did you deduce that?
Blue anchor tattooed on the back of his hand, military carriage and regulation side whiskers, head of command. Obviously a retired Marine sergeant.
Incredible.
Elementary, my dear fellow.
Do you want me to order you a cab?
Why?
Well, the telegram, the murder.
What does it matter to me? Supposing I unravel the whole matter, you can be sure Inspector Gregson will pocket all the credit.
But he begs you to help him.
Because he knows I'm his superior, but he'd cut his tongue out before admitting it to any third person.
Holmes, what were you just saying about great crimes? This is the chance you were waiting for.
I suppose. I might have a laugh at Gregson if nothing else. Very well, get your hat.
I beg your pardon?
Well, if you have nothing better to do, you might as well come along.
Ah, Mr. Holmes. Good of you to come.
My pleasure, Gregson. This is Dr. Watson, my associate.
Inspector Gregson?
Gone into partnership, eh? Excellent. 3 heads are better than 2. I've had everything left untouched.
Except the path. A herd of buffalo couldn't have caused greater mess.
Oh, I've had so much to do inside the house, Mr. Holmes. I relied on Lestrade to look after it.
With 2 such men as yourself and Lestrade upon the ground, there won't be much of us to find out. Did either of you come here in a cab?
No, Mr. Holmes.
I see. Well, let's go and look at the room.
This way, gentlemen.
Holmes, who is Lestrade?
Inspectors Gregson and Lestrade are the pick of a bad lot, Watson. They have their knives into one another. There'll be some fun if they're both on the scent.
Lestrade, Mr. Holmes has arrived, and this is his new colleague, Dr. Watson.
This case will make a stir, gentlemen. It beats anything I've seen, and I'm no chicken.
Are you quite sure there's no wound on the body, Inspector? There's blood all over the place.
Positive.
Fascinating. May we examine the body, Lestrade?
Go ahead.
Has he been moved at all?
No more than was necessary for the purpose of our examination.
43 or 44 years of age, wouldn't you say, Watson?
About that, yes. You see his lower limbs are interlocked. The death struggle must have been a grievous one. And the horrible contortion of the features. I've seen death in many forms, Holmes, but nothing like this. What killed this man?
Patent leather boots.
What?
I was just looking at the man's shoes. I'm so sorry, Watson. What were you saying?
Nothing.
Gentlemen, there's something under the body. I can just reach it. There.
It's a woman's wedding ring.
There's been a woman here.
I wonder. Anything in his pockets, Gregson?
I made a note of it. Oh, yes. A gold watch with gold Albert chain, gold ring with Masonic device, Russian leather card case with cards of Enoch J. Drebber of Cleveland, corresponding with the EJD upon the linen, loose money to the extent of £7.13, and 2 letters, one addressed to E.J. Drebber and one to Joseph Stangerson, addressed to the American Exchange, to be left till called for.
According to the letters, Drebber and his secretary Stangerson are both from the Guyon Steamship Company, and they were both about to return to New York.
So how did Drebber end up dead in a blood-soaked room?
Have you made any enquiries to Cleveland?
We telegraphed this morning, detailing the circumstances, and said we'd be glad of any information which could help us.
Is that all? Will you not telegraph again?
I've said all I have to say, Mr. Holmes. You know as much as we do now.
Well, as a matter of fact, Mr. Gregson, while you were waiting for Mr. Holmes, I made a discovery of the highest importance. Over here. You see, this is the darkest corner of the room, but when that candle on the mantelpiece was lit, it would have been the brightest. Now, look at that.
Great Scott! R-A-C-H-E. Written in blood.
All right. What does it mean now that you've found it?
It means the writer was going to put the female name Rachel, but was disturbed before he or she had time to finish. You mark my words, when this case is cleared up, you'll find that a woman named Rachel has something to do with it.
This complicates matters. Heaven knows they were complicated enough before.
You're sure it doesn't simplify them? Come, Gregson, there's nothing to be learned by staring at the ring.
Oh, it's all very well for you to criticize, Mr. Holmes, but the old hound is the best when all's said and done.
Lestrade, I do beg your pardon. You certainly have the credit of being the first of us to find this, and, as you say, it bears every mark of being written by the other participant in last night's mystery. Gregson, I should like to speak to the constable who found the body.
John Rance. He's off duty now. You'll find him at 46 Audley Court, Kennington Park Gate.
Very well. If you'll let me know how your investigations progress, I'll be happy to give you any little help I can. Good evening to you.
Oh, Mr. Holmes, no advice?
You're doing so well now, it'd be a pity for anyone to interfere. I'll tell you one thing which may help you in the case. There has been murder done, and the murderer was a man. He was more than 6 feet high, was in the prime of life, had small feet for his height, wore coarse, square-toed boots, and smoked a Trichinopoly cigar. He came here with his victim in a four-wheeled cab, which was drawn by a horse with 3 old shoes and 1 new one on his off foreleg. In all probability, the murderer had a florid face, and the fingernails of his right hand were remarkably long. These are only a few indications, but they may assist you.
If this man was murdered, how was it done?
Poison. By the way, Lestrade, don't waste your time looking for Miss Rachel. Rache is the German for revenge. Come along, Doctor.
You amaze me, Holmes. Now, surely you're not as sure as you pretend to be of all those particular facts you gave.
There's no room for a mistake. They say that genius is an infinite capacity for taking pains. It's a very bad definition, but it does apply to detective work.
My head's in a whirl. The more one thinks of it, the more mysterious it grows. What were these 2 men doing in an empty house? What's become of the cabman who drove them? How could one man compel another to take poison? Where did the blood come from?
You sum up the difficulties of the situation very succinctly, Watson.
Barely started, Holmes. What was the object of the murder if robbery had no part in it? How came the woman's ring there? And above all, why should the second man write the word Rache on the wall? I can't see any possible way of reconciling all these facts.
I'll tell you one more thing, then. The murderer and his victim, Drebber, came in the same cab, and they walked down the pathway together as friendly as possible, arm in all probability. When they got inside, they walked up and down the room, or rather, Drebber stood still while the murderer walked up and down. And as he walked, he grew more and more excited. That's shown by the increased length of his strides. He worked himself into a fury. Then the tragedy occurred. Now I've told you all I know myself. And, even though my mind's entirely made up upon the case, we may as well learn all that is to be learned from Constable Rance.
I'll tell it you from the beginning, gents. About 2 o'clock, I thought I'd take a look and see that all was right down the Brixton Road, when suddenly the glint of a light caught me eye in the window of number 3 Lauriston Gardens. Now, I knew that house was empty on account of him that owns it won't have the drains fixed for the very last tenant died of typhoid fever. All was quiet inside, so I went into the room where the light was a-burning. There was a candle flickering on the mantelpiece, and by its light I saw...
We know what you saw. You walked round the room several times, knelt down by the body, walked through and tried the kitchen door, then...
Here. Where was you hid to see all that? It seems to me that you knows a deal more than you should.
Calm yourself, Constable. I am one of the hounds, not the wolf. Inspector Gregson or Lestrade will answer for that. What did you do next?
I walked back to the gate to see if I could see Constable Merchant's lantern, but there wasn't no sign of him.
There was no one in the street?
So far as anybody that could be of any good goes. I've seen many a drunk chap in my time, but never anyone so crying drunk as this cove. He was at the gate, a-leaning up again the railings and a-singing at the pitch of his lungs. He couldn't stand far less help.
What sort of man was he?
He was an uncommon drunk sort of man. He'd have found himself in the station if we hadn't been so took up. Tall chap, florid face.
What became of him?
We'd enough to do without looking after him. I'll wager he found his way home all right.
The blundering fool. Just to think of his having such an incomparable bit of good luck and not taking advantage of it.
Now, it's true that this drunkard might be the second party in this mystery, but why should he come back to the house?
The ring, man, the ring! If we have no other way of catching him, we can always bait our line with the ring. I shall have him. I'll lay you 2 to 1 that I have him. What's the matter, Watson? You're not looking quite yourself. This Brixton Road affair has upset you.
To tell you the truth, Holmes, it has. I ought to be more case-hardened after my Afghan experiences. I saw my own comrades hacked to pieces at Maya one without losing my nerve.
But there is a mystery about this, which stimulates the imagination. Where there is no imagination, there is no horror.
Found in the Brixton Road this morning. A plain gold wedding ring in the roadway between the White Hart Tavern and Holland Grove. Apply Dr. Watson, 221B Baker Street between 8 and 9.
I had that advertisement placed in every London paper. Excuse my using your name, old fellow.
No, it's quite all right. But supposing anyone replies, I have no ring.
Oh, yes, you have. Yeah, it's almost a facsimile.
Oh, and who do you expect will answer this advertisement?
Why, the murderer, of course. He'd rather risk anything than lose the ring. I imagine he dropped it while stooping over Drebber's body.
And when he returned to the house, he found the police already in possession and had to pretend to be drunk.
Well done, Watson. On thinking the matter over, it must have occurred to him that it was possible that he'd lost the ring in the road after leaving the house. What would he do?
Look out for the evening papers in the hope of seeing it among the articles found. His eye, of course, would light upon this.
Why should he fear a trap? There'd be no reason why the finding of the ring should be connected with the murder.
Holmes, it's 8 o'clock now.
Have you a weapon?
My old service revolver and a few cartridges.
Splendid. It's as well to be ready for anything.
Come in.
Dr. Watson?
Yes, my good woman.
It's your advertisement has brought me, sir. A gold wedding ring in the Brixton Road. It belongs to my girl Sally, as was married only this time 12 months. Her husband is a steward aboard a Union boat. And what he'd say if he comes home and found her without her ring is more than I can think. She lost it on her way back from the circus last night.
Is this the ring?
The Lord be thanked. Sally will be a glad woman this night.
And what may your address be?
13 Duncan Street, Houndsditch. A weary way from here.
The Brixton Road does not lie between any circus and Houndsditch.
The gentleman asked for my address, sir. Sally lives in lodgings at 3 Mayfield Place, Peckham.
And your name is?
My name is Sawyer. Hers is Dennis, which Tom Dennis married her. And a smart, clean lad, too, as long as he's at sea. And no steward in the company more thought of. But when on shore, what with the women and the drink?
Yes, quite. Well, here is your ring, madam. It clearly belongs to your daughter, and I'm glad to be able to restore it to the rightful owner.
Thank you 100 times, sir. Good night to you both.
She must be an accomplice. I'll follow her. Wait up for me, Watson.
You perched on the back of her cab.
It's an art which every detective should be an expert at, Watson. The old crone told the driver to take her to 13 Duncan Street, Houndsditch. This begins to look genuine, I thought. Well, away we rattled, and never drew rein until we reached the street in question. I hopped off before we came to the door and strolled down the street. I saw the cab pull up, the driver jump down and open the door and stand expectantly. When I reached him, he was groping about frantically in the empty cab and giving vent to the finest assorted collection of oaths I ever listened to.
You don't mean to say that tottering, feeble old woman was able to jump from the cab while it was in motion?
Old woman be damned. We were the old women to be so taken in. It must have been a young man, and an active one too, besides being an incomparable actor. It shows that the fellow we're after isn't as lonely as I imagined, but has friends who are ready to risk something for him. I wouldn't have the Scotland Yarders know it for the world.
Now, the Daily Telegraph is blaming political refugees for the crime.
Balderdash.
Well, the writing on the wall did point to a German.
A real German, Watson, invariably prints in the Latin character, so that we may safely say that this was not written by one, but by a clumsy imitator who overdid his part. It was simply a ruse to divert inquiry into a wrong channel by suggesting socialism and secret societies.
We are glad to learn that Mr. Lestrade and Mr. Gregson of Scotland Yard are both engaged upon the case, and it is confidently anticipated that these well-known officers will speedily throw light upon the matter.
Ha! Didn't I tell you that whatever happens, Lestrade and Gregson will be certain to score?
Oh, surely that depends on how it turns out.
Oh, bless you, it doesn't matter in the least. If the man is caught, it will be on account of their exertions. If he escapes, it will be in spite of them.
Anything interesting in that telegram you received?
Very little, save for the name of the murderer.
Oh, pity. What?
Now, we're going to hear some news with a vengeance. Come in, Gregson.
Congratulate me, gentlemen. I've made the whole thing as clear as day.
You mean you're on the right track, Inspector?
The right track? Why, we have the man under lock and key, Doctor.
And his name is?
Arthur Charpentier, sub-lieutenant in Her Majesty's Navy.
Ah. Take a seat, Gregson, and try one of these cigars. We're anxious to know how you managed it. Will you have some whiskey and water?
I don't mind if I do. The tremendous exertions I've gone through during the last day or two have worn me out. Not so much bodily exertions, you understand, as the strain upon the mind. You'll appreciate that, Mr. Holmes. We're both brain workers. Thank you.
You do me too much honor. Let us hear how you've arrived at this most gratifying result.
The fun of it is that Lestrade, who thinks himself so smart, has gone off upon the wrong track altogether. He's after the secretary, Stangerson, who had no more to do with the crime than a babe unborn. Now, the first difficulty was in the finding of this American's antecedents. You probably won't remember, but there was a hat beside the dead man.
By John Underwood and Sons, 129 Camberwell Road.
Oh, I had no idea you'd noticed that. Have you been there?
No.
Ah, well, you should never neglect a chance, Mr. Holmes, no matter how small it may seem.
To a great mind, nothing is small.
Quite. Well, I went to Underwood and asked him to look over his books. He'd sent the hat to a Mr. Drebber, residing at Charpentier's boarding establishment, Torquay Terrace. Thus, I got his address.
Smart. Very smart.
When I called upon Madame Charpentier, I found her very pale and distressed. She was looking red about the eyes, and her lips trembled as I spoke to her. That didn't escape my notice. You know the feeling, Mr. Holmes, when you come upon the right scent, a kind of a thrill in your nerves. Well, I fixed her with my eye in a way I have always found effective with women, and through careful questioning, I was soon able to get at the truth.
Which was?
Drebber and Stangerson had been staying at that establishment for nearly 3 weeks. Stangerson was a quiet, reserved man, but his employer was coarse in his habits and brutish in his ways. The very night of his arrival, he became very much the worse for drink, and after 12 o'clock in the day, he could hardly ever be said to be sober.
Well, why didn't the landlady give them notice? Surely she could get rid of her boarders when she wished.
They were paying £1 a day each, Doctor, and this is the slack season. The lady is a widow, and her son in the Navy has cost her much.
The money must have been a sore temptation.
Exactly. But eventually she did give Drebber notice to leave. You see, his manners towards the maidservants were disgustingly free and familiar, and he speedily assumed the same attitude towards Madame Charpentier's daughter, Alice. On one occasion, he actually seized her in his arms and embraced her, an outrage which caused his own secretary to reproach him for his unmanly conduct.
And at what o'clock did they leave the boarding house?
8. Madame Charpentier heard Stangerson say there were 2 trains, one at 9:15 and one at 11, and they planned to catch the first. But they evidently missed it, because Drebber returned to the house less than an hour later, and very much the worse for drink. He then proceeded to propose that Alice Charpentier should fly with him.
Good gracious.
He said, well, let me see. Yes. You are of age, and there's no law to stop you. I have money enough and to spare. Never mind the old girl, but come along with me straight away. You shall live like a princess. Well, the girl was so frightened that she shrunk away from him, but he caught her by the wrist and endeavored to draw her towards the door, at which point Madame Charpentier's son Arthur came into the room. He's on leave at present. Did I forget to mention that?
You did, Inspector, but I gathered it all the same.
Well, there was a scuffle. Then Drebber's out of the house with young Arthur in pursuit, carrying an oak cudgel in his hand. Madame Charpentier can't say what time her son returned home. He has his own latchkey, but he hadn't returned when she went to bed at 11. I traced the lieutenant to a nearby alehouse. When I touched him on the shoulder and warned him to come quietly, he answered as bold as brass. Hang on. I suppose you're arresting me for the death of that scoundrel Drebber. I'd said nothing about it, so that his alluding to it had a most suspicious aspect.
So, what is your theory, Gregson?
In my opinion, he followed Drebber as far as the Brixton Road. When there, a fresh altercation arose between them, in the course of which Drebber received a blow from the stick, in the pit of the stomach perhaps, which killed him without leaving a mark. The night was so wet that no one was about, so Charpentier dragged the body of his victim into the empty house. As to the candle and the blood and the writing on the wall and the ring, They may all have been so many tricks to throw the police onto the wrong scent.
But, Inspector, what about...
Well done. Really, Gregson, you're coming along. We shall make something of you yet.
I flatter myself that I managed it rather neatly. Charpentier claims he chased Drebber, but the American jumped into a cab in order to get away from him. On his way home, he met an old shipmate, and they took a long walk with him. On being asked where this shipmate lived, he was unable to give any satisfactory reply. The whole case fits together uncommonly well. What amuses me is to think of Lestrade. He's on completely the wrong scent.
Good morning, Lestrade.
Lestrade.
This is a most extraordinary case, Mr. Holmes. A most